Sorry. Hello guys, Cartoon Retro Boy 64 is here, and I've been recently been talking to Lighting Bliss about her videos recently, and I think that they've been teaching me a lot, and I think that they've been teaching me a good moral for me, honestly, about like how to respect YouTubers more like her, for example, and I think that honestly, I think that I think her Blissy idea and Loopy idea has been really teaching me some morals I need to learn, honestly. So, anyways, I would say go subscribe to her if you haven't yet, because honestly, I'll link her channel in the description box below, because I really like her channel, and I hope you guys can see why, considering that uh, one is because I think older women are really cool, or older women is pretty cool in my opinion. I literally, my mom knows I like older women a lot, honestly. So, you can't really judge me for that. So yeah, go subscribe to her channel, and honestly, go see her content because her content is really good in my opinion, honestly. Okay, enough discussion about Lighting Bliss. Let's get to the actual real thing what I'm talking about this video for, and that is a certain SpongeBob game. So, if you guys don't know, this SpongeBob game was the last Heavy Iron game that has came out in years, honestly. It's been 16 years since this game released, and reception is mixed bag at most. There's people who like the game more than Battle or the movie game, honestly. There's people who think it's a downgrade compared to Battle for Bikini Bottom in the movie game. There's people who think it's mediocre at best. There's some people who think it's a pretty bad game in general. And there's some people who think this game is also refers to the DS version, or think it's as I think both the console version is really good and the DS version is really good in their opinion. So what I gathered from a lot of game reviewers is that True for Square is seen as it has mixed reception wise. Well, people will say it's. I know many people will say it's better than the actual episode itself, but I kind of feel like half of those reviews don't really watch the episode itself. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like some of these YouTubers don't really watch the episode personally to see how terrible it is. Since I will say the video game is way better than the actual special it was promoting, honestly. And I think this game is underrated. Might be the most underrated SpongeBob game out there. I have a top three most underrated SpongeBob games, or four actually. Those being number four would be Legend of the Lost Spatula. Number three would be Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. Number two would be Atlantis Scorpantis for console, and number one would be True for Square. Actually, no, I think I actually have like five games honestly in the underrated category. Which I know number five would be like Legend of the Lost Spatula. Four would be like Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. Number three would be Lance Rapantis. Number two would be Boating Bash, and number one would be True for Square. So True for Square is the main culprit of this video, though. So what is True for Square? What is the development of this game? When this game came out? So the game originally started in mid 2008 as a completely different game called Happiness Square, and this was the earlier version of True for Square as known at the time. And a certain YouTuber online from 2010 uploaded a demo of what the game was originally going to be like. And from what I can see from the comments section, it seems like people actually prefer this version actually over the actual game overall, which I don't think that's a really fair. That's not fair in my opinion, honestly. I mean, I know it's because you're judging a game by its. I know you're because you're judging a beta to a final game, but still. But honestly, I think that I really do like the final game itself because it's definitely in my high A tier game. Honestly, in my if you guys saw my Spudum tier list, you noticed True for Square was in my high A tier of all Spudum games. Honestly, that's why. So yeah. So let's get started with True for Square. So yeah, the game was originally supposed to be called Happiness Square, which had early gameplay and concept art in the final game. And also has two cut levels that were exclusive to the PSP and DS version. But thankfully, one day in 2022, Reddit user has leaked the downtown and Krusty Krab levels that were in the Spanish Wii version of the game. And downtown is basically the same as the PSP version, but the Krusty Krab is its own unique level that has both parts of both the PSP and DS version of the game. And these games, like I said, the game was cut. The two cut levels were cut because Nickelodeon rushed out Heavy Iron to make this game and to tie in with the actual episode itself. Which, I'll talk about that later on, because I think that Nickelodeon's decision of rushing out this game because they had to tie it in with a anniversary episode was kind of a bad idea, honestly. Because I feel like there's some ideas from the DS and PSP version that could have been in the console game, honestly. But I'll talk about that later on, about like some of the flaws of this game, honestly. So yeah. So let's start off with like the story of this game. Honestly, it's pretty simple. So it has Mr. Krabs. So while preparing for the 117th anniversary of the Krusty Krab, Mr. Krabs entrusts SpongeBob to keep the secret formula with him, honestly. And we'll get to that ending in a little bit, honestly. So later on, SpongeBob can't remember where he put the formula, and it's not in his pocket. So when SpongeBob's sad, he can't remember anything, and he needs to find the secret formula before Plankton gets his grubby hands on it. So later on, Plankton hooks up SpongeBob to a machine and puts robots inside his brain, like in the DS version as well. And Plankton also goes into SpongeBob's mind after he accidentally drops the remote that's supposed to put robots in the brain. And Plankton says that he will go into SpongeBob's brain to find the formula himself. And then then later on in the story, when SpongeBob wakes up, SpongeBob says that he put the formula in the safe at the Krusty Krab. And Plankton tries to go find it, but he accidentally has the robot go to downtown. So it's up to SpongeBob to defeat him. After getting defeated, SpongeBob saw that Mr. Krabs was like asking him why he's not flipping Krabby Patties, and then SpongeBob tells Mr. Krabs that he lost the secret formula. So SpongeBob assumed that he put it in the safe. He thought he lost it, but he said he put it in the safe. So later on, so after that, SpongeBob said that he was 100% sure he put it in the safe, but it turns out it was in his back pocket the whole time, which was probably that's a lame twist in my opinion. But it turns out that Mr. Krabs didn't give the secret formula to SpongeBob in the first place. It was a lottery ticket. So SpongeBob makes a face that is accurate to how I felt about that shocking twist. And it was in Mr. Krabs' pocket the whole time. In the console version, he's confused. He's confused about this. But in the DS version, he thinks it's funny. And that's the story. And Plankton says about how 10 years he's been trying to get the formula and how he's failed, honestly. And then he's going to try again tomorrow. And that's the story of True for Square overall. I think it's a pretty solid story, honestly. Now, so honestly, the story also has SpongeBob going through 10 happiest memories to find where he put the formula at. So yeah, I think the story is a pretty good story for a SpongeBob story, honestly. I don't really care about the story much in SpongeBob games personally, unless it's generic like Plankton's Robotic Revenge personally, or Hero Pants. But I think that True for Square has a good story, and I think the writing of this game is also pretty good in my opinion, honestly. Way better than the actual episode itself. Because keep in mind, the episode sucks, honestly. So what's the gameplay of this game? So I actually have to first talk about the hub area. So unlike Battle for Bikini Bottom, it doesn't have a huge hub area because this time it's only in SpongeBob's house. And you can find happiness items in. You can also go through different areas in the game overall. On PSP, you can go through any area you want in the house, but some of them are locked because you don't have the level rank system to unlock it yet. There's also lives in this game as well. But what about the main gameplay? What does it consist of? So it's mostly a Crash Bandicoot style game, honestly. It's kind of like the Super Mario 3D Land and Mario 3D World of the SpongeBob franchise, where it's mostly semi-linear. It's mostly different from the collectathon platforming gameplay of the Battle from Bikini Bottom to the more widely linear platforming gameplay of the movie game. But keep in mind, the movie game had more branching pathways in the game. Let's see, what else can I say about the game? Also, this game has so many enemies in this game. Like this, though it's not all the enemies in the game overall, because there is some that are exclusive in the PSP and DS version of the game. Let's see. I think that the enemies are pretty good in this game. I think the enemies are pretty good in this game overall. They're pretty fun. I do think the designs are not as unique as Battle for Bikini Bottom personally, but I do think that's just kind of me being biased towards Battle for Bikini Bottom, honestly. So yeah, and I don't think it's like I said, the enemies are not as I don't think it's as amazing as Battle for Bikini Bottom or Cosmic Shake or Titans of the Tide enemies or even the movie games enemies. But I think that those four games does a better job at enemy wise, honestly. So that's why I'm thinking I prefer those games enemies over this one, honestly. But anyway, let's move on. I think the platforming is the best part of this game, though, because I think it's like I said, it's semi-linear, like Mario 3D Land and Mario 3D World, honestly. But unlike those games, there's not much collectibles here. There, there's instead of golden spatulas or Goofy Goober tokens, they're replaced by happiness items, which are things that you get at the end of which you get in the level overall. There's the main collectible at the end of the level. There's two challenge tikis that you do in the level, and that's mostly it. No other collectibles besides that. And also you have happy tokens. But anyway, let's move on, please. Um, I do think that I do think the difficulty is simple here, honestly. Kind of a downgrade compared to Battle or the movie game overall, which I know that sounds like very sad, honestly. But I think it still has a good challenge, honestly. Rock Bottom and Kelp Forest have good. Kelp Forest and Rock Bottom levels are pretty good in this game, honestly. They're probably they're honestly the thing is about I think the thing about Battle for King Bottom I think the thing about Battle for King Bottom personally is that the reason why I prefer the difficulty, well, it was kind of simple, very easy in that game, and I think the movie game has better difficulty. Honestly, I think True for Square has the medium difficulty. Honestly, because like I said, it does get more challenging in the Rock Bottom or in Karate Island stage, even though the Karate Island stage is kind of my second least favorite level of the game. Honestly, Another thing I think this game does good at personally. Let's see. What else can I say about the gameplay? I think that the progression is kind of more better than the movie game, honestly. Cause see, I think the movie game does better. I do think the movie game does have does have worse progression than Battle or True for Square, honestly. But I think True for Square has better progression wise. It's just fun in my opinion, honestly. And I think the levels also are more. I do think that the levels do have at least do have challenges that are in the levels overall. But there are different challenges. There are different tiki challenges in this game though. So yeah, um, yeah, I really I respect that honestly. What's another thing I like about the gameplay though? Okay, so we talked about the platforming, the difficulty, the enemies, the challenges. What else did we talk about? The boss battles, of course. I think that the boss battles are better than Battle or the movie game, honest. Or no, actually, I don't think it's better than the movie game because, since I I don't know. I think I prefer the difficulty in the movie game when it comes to boss battles because I think it just has better boss battles than Battle or True for Square, honestly. But True for Square is probably a close second though. Well, I do think it's mostly all of them are mostly robots, but I don't mind that because like I said, making robot boss battles is not a bad thing in a SpongeBob game personally. And I think that's pretty cool in my opinion. I think my favorite boss battle in this game is probably Robot Squidward. Robot Squidward originally a cut boss that was in Battle for Bikini Bottom though. So I think them bringing it back in this game was probably the best thing about this game overall. It's just like I said, it's just how good. I think the boss battle might be the best boss of the of this game overall because I think it has a good challenge and it also has good platforming and good enemies. And I think the boss is overall handled better here than any other spawn boss in this game. Patbot is kind of a okay boss, but I don't think it's the best boss ever. And actually, no, I think Patbot is pretty good in my opinion, honestly. What else I like? What other boss I like in this game? The final boss is probably the weakest, though. I will say that for sure. It's okay. I think it's probably the most okay boss of the game. Well, probably Demental would be my second least favorite, though. I will say that for sure. I will say that for sure. And Wee Yellow is pretty good in my opinion, though. So yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Um, what else I like about this game overall? When it comes to boss battles, I think the final boss is probably like the weakest, though. I will say that for sure because I think it's just kind of a weak boss battle in general. It's basically the same as the one from Battle from King Bottom's final boss battle because it has the same concept as Muscle Bob as Muscle Robot Bob Steel Pants or Muscle. I think it was called Robots Muscle Bob Steel Pants and stuff. I think that's what it's called. I'm not sure. Or Muscle Bot Steel Pants. I think that's what it's called. I don't know. I don't know what it was called honestly. But I'm saying that the boss is kind of too simple, and it feels like the first phase was being repeated in this final boss battle, honestly, or it could have been more difficult, honestly, to make it feel like a really good boss battle. Wee Yellow is probably my second favorite, honestly, or no, I think that yeah, I think Wee Yellow is my second favorite, honestly, and then Padbot would be my third. So yeah, I think the bosses are pretty good in this game. They range from okay to good bosses, honestly. Nothing to really say about. Now, what about the what about the soundtrack? How I feel about the soundtrack being reused in this game? Well, I'm kind of 50-50 on this. I feel like they should have remixed the tracks from Battle from King Bottom in the movie game in my opinion, because I think that would have been a really cool idea. Considering Sonic Generations done this idea after True for Square did. After True for Square just I think Sonic Generations did a better job at reusing music because they remixed the music from those games overall. But True for Square just outright reuses soundtracks from Battle for King Bottom, the movie game, and the show in general. I think it would have been a better choice if they just remixed the soundtracks of both Battle for King Bottom, the movie game, and the show itself, because I think it would have made a much better idea, honestly. Or recompose them, or they could have recomposed them, honestly. Like I said, I don't think it's a big problem, but I think this is kind of something I wish this game could have done, honestly, better. Power-ups. What is the powers of this game? First, we have the rainbow power-up, which is basically used to destroy enemies in your path. There's muscle buff pants, or muscle bob buff pants, which basically it's basically a muscle spongebob that is you can. It's basically upgraded version of all your attacks from this game overall, such as your hammer being your spatula slam being turned into a hammer, your propeller move. I think it was a spin, hand spin or something like that, or like a hand spin was turned into a propeller spin, and your cannon shot is more bigger now. Let's see, what else can I say? Um, what else can I say, honestly? Um, I think that this video, no, not video. Sorry, I'm trying to say it. I think the combat in this game is pretty much simple, but I think it's pretty good in this game as well. Like I said, I'm not too harsh about this game, honestly, like other people are. I mean, I'm not the only one who's a fan of this game. There's 22 Tiger Dude, there's Riders DX, and of course, there's the ultimate Koopa emulator, who thinks this game is better than Battle or the movie game. Honestly, go check out his Legacy of Battle for King Bottom video. It's really good in my opinion. It made me appreciate True for Square more as a game, honestly. The voice acting is pretty good in this game. I think Bob Jones does a pretty good voice of Mr. Krabs personally. Honestly, I think I wouldn't mind if Mr. Krabs. I wouldn't mind if he voiced in Mr. Krabs again in a SpongeBob game. Honestly. Oh yeah, I think Boating Bash does the same thing as well. But it's also I think that no one can replace Clancy Brown in my opinion, though. I will say that for sure. No one will ever replace Clancy Brown in my opinion, honestly. And I think I'm glad the new SpongeBob games are at least having Clancy Brown voice Mr. Krabs, honestly. Let's see, what else can I say? I think that like I said, I think the gameplay structure is good. Platforming is good. Difficulty is good. Like most of the things in this game are really good in my opinion. And I think that the music, like I said, could be better, honestly. So what else does this game does, honestly? It's basically it has also straightforward pathways compared to both Battle or the movie game, honestly. That means that there's no wall jumping or no driving, no bungee jumping or anything like that, or not, or no like extra challenges that are in the game overall. But I'm fine with that because, like I said, I don't mind. I don't mind this change overall. So yeah, um, I think another thing that I think this game does well at is probably the fan service. Because I think the fan service in this game and references to past episodes is probably the thing that really carries this game a lot, honestly, in my opinion. It feels like a true anniversary. It feels like a true 10th anniversary special than the actual special itself. I know that sounds crazy because, since True for Square was supposed to be the 10th anniversary special, but honestly, that episode's really sucked so hard, honestly, and probably one of the worst specials of the entire show. Let's see. Let's see. What else can I say? Um, I think the levels, like I said, the levels are pretty good in this game as well, except for Karate Island and Mermalair. Those ones are the worst ones of the game. But I think that overall, this level is. I think that most of the levels in this game are really good in this game. And I think, but there is a few problems with this game though, because I think I'd list off everything I could say. So, as like I said, I like most of the things in this game, but there's a few problems I have with this game though, that I think that are very apparent in this game overall, and I think this is what saves it. This is what makes it not S tier, honestly. If I think what would have carried it into S tier is that if it was not so short, honestly. You see, this game has two extra levels that were only exclusive to the PSP and DS version, and those levels being Downtown and Krusty Krab. And I think as these two final levels, I think that they should have been in the console game because, like I said, it makes the game feel too short. Honestly, why wasn't the Fry Cook Games a level in this in the console version? Honestly, considering it's in the DS version, but I guess because they forgot to add Help Wanted in the game overall. But I guess it makes sense because they wanted to do Fry Cook Games level. So let me list off the positives of this game right now, so I can get into the flaws of this game afterwards. So first of all, I like the platforming, I like the combat, I like the enemies, I like the bosses, I love the fan service, the voice acting, I love the graphics of this game, I love the visuals of this game, I like the models of this game, I like the costumes in this game, I like the I like the multiplayer in this game a lot. That's pretty fun. And I also love I do like the story of this game as well. I do think it's a pretty good story, honestly. The writing in this game is really good. The humor in this game is really good. The expressions are pretty good in this game. They look more expressive here than Battle or the movie game, honestly. I like the health system more than Battle. No, I can't. Actually, no, I don't. I actually don't. Actually, that's a lie. That's a big fat lie. I like the power ups in this game. And overall, I think most of this game is really solid and probably a 9 out of 10. But there's a few. I think what holds it back from being in my S tier and a 10 out of 10 is some issues overall. Firstly, let's get off with some issues that I noticed throughout my playthrough of my replay of this game overall. Firstly, is that this game is way too short, and I think this is a problem when you realize there's two extra levels that were cut in the console game. Honestly, and I think that having these two levels scrapped in the console game for Wii and Xbox 360 is disappointing in my opinion. And like I said before with the enemies, I don't think they're as good as Battle for King Bonnet or the movie game, but I think they're still a 7 out of 10 in my opinion. Just not a perfect one. I just think though they are perfect enemies though. I think the Mermalair and the Karate Island stage are pretty terrible levels, honestly, because they're not very good stage, honestly. They're just the Mermalair is pretty dark, and I don't like that honestly. And Cry Island has the most difficult platforming that I ever seen in any of the Heavy Iron games, honestly, more than the movie game. Which I know that sounds like a good thing because it means it rank ups the difficulty, but at the same time, the Cry Island stage has some questionable things that are in this level, honestly. Like, why is Sandy using Plankton's robots to, you know, protect herself from SpongeBob in one of the sections of the level? Is it because she was like she's using his robots against SpongeBob? I'm not sure. I just feel like this section is weird in my opinion. Like, how is that? How did not nobody? How did some people not notice this honestly on their first playthrough of the game? I think the life system is probably what makes it that is not a really good idea. And this is even I think the health system in this game, the life system, is a terrible. It was a not a good idea because I feel like making it lives is kind of a bad idea. I would have preferred if it was just underwear as your health. Honestly, I don't think lives is probably what I don't think they should have had lives in this game overall. And I think the final boss is probably the most okay boss of all of the SpongeBob Heavy Iron games. Honestly, yes, even more than the ones in Battle for King Bottom. Honestly, most of them are okay in that game, but I don't think they're perfect bosses. Honestly, except for the final boss, except for the big robot bosses, those ones are really fun. So what else do I like? So what else? What else I can say? What else can I say about this game? Um, what else I have negatives with this game, honestly? I think there's two things that I think I would honestly. I think the lack of mini games is kind of what also is a kind of a disappointing problem I do have with this game. Is that unlike the DS and PSP version, there's no mini games in them. But I feel like that the DS version does is probably the superior version of True for Square because I think it's just has everything I want out of the console game, honestly. Except for the combat. I think that the combat is worse there, honestly. But I think the level design is much better in the DS version, though. I will say that for sure. So yeah. Anyways, let's move on. So another thing I do think this game does pretty well at. I do think another thing this game does well at does not good at is probably. I think it's like I said. I think it's way too short. Honestly, like I said, those cut levels could have been in the console game, but I think it's because rush to element caused the game to get rushed out the door. Honestly, I wish there was mini games in the console version. Honestly, because I think that would have been really cool to have each level that's not a boss battle have its own mini game. Because that would have been a cool idea, honestly, to me. And I do think they could have had more collectibles in this game as well. Maybe they could have had an extra collectible where you collect I don't know what can replace socks and treasure chests. Maybe have them be happy glows or something like that. Happy happy trophies, I guess I could say. Happy trophies are basically something that unlocks like other parts of the game overall. Or actually no, you can have them be something like the like have them be happy. I guess you can have them be treasure chests, but also have them be called happy chests, where it unlocks like concept art and stuff like that. Or like that would make more sense personally, and also unlock other things that are in the game overall, like the movie game did. And I think the another thing I think this game lacks in is probably the upgrade system, and also the bungee jumping and wall jumping, like in the previous two Smart games, and also lack of playable other playable characters. I understand that they wanted to have Spongebob as the main character in the beginning of the development of this game, but I feel like making him the only playable character is kind of lame personally compared to the other two games. But considering that SpongeBob's mostly playable in most of his games and how some games doesn't really include other characters, I guess it's not a really huge problem, honestly. I do think the combat could have been a little bit more, could have been more easier, honestly, because like I said, I think the PSP version has the best combat out of all the versions, honestly. And I think that's it for problems wise, because I think the rest of the game is still really good in my opinion. Of course, the ending is pretty stupid though. I will say that for sure. But at least Squidward is playable and a power up though. I will say that for sure. But I think that's it for problem wise, because I think this game is. I think the only biggest problem with this game is that it's that it was rushed out the door by Nickelodeon. Honestly, because like I said, they were rushing out this game to tie in with the actual episode itself. So honestly, I think that's kind of a big problem with this game overall. Is that it feels unfinished. Honestly, it's kind of similar to how I feel about other Spun games around this time. Is that some of them were unfinished compared to the unfinished. Honestly, and I hope that one day they will remake all these games. Honestly, but I doubt it, considering that Nickelodeon doesn't. That some people will are doubtful of getting a remake of the movie game. Honestly, even though people are begging for a movie game remake. Honestly, but anyway, even though this game is like flawed, it is definitely has flaws, and it definitely does hold it back from being S tier. I still enjoy. I think this is a 9 out of 10, easily one of the best SpongeBob games out there. Though I will say that for sure. But it's not my S tier ranking though. I will say that for sure. As my S tier ranking has the best SpongeBob games in my opinion. So yeah, overall, I enjoyed this game. I overall enjoyed this game, and I hope people will appreciate this game as well. So like I said, I think True for Square needs more love in the fan base, honestly, because I feel like it needs more appreciation for trying to be something else than Battle for Bikini Bottom or the movie game, honestly. Because I think it just needs more appreciation. I hope people will appreciate it more. Maybe in the future, people will mellow up, and maybe like this game more. Honestly, like me, do. But as it is, I still think it's an amazing game that people should I should recommend playing, and I think that it's a really good fun game overall. So yeah, overall score is a 9 out of 10, and hopefully you guys see why I like this game a lot. So sure, it's weaker than Battle or the movie game, but I think it's still a great SpongeBob game in general. Amazing SpongeBob game, an excellent one too. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully that this video comes out on time, and thank you guys for watching. Cartoon Retro Boys out.